Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Dual Hearts. We are in the Orange Hall of Treasure, having completed the Hall of Trial, and it's time to pick up our 7th Holy Instrument. This one's largely icing on the cake, because the real prize to finishing the last level was the ability to fly, which we will be taking advantage of soon. But you know, we'll take what we can get. This is the Snake Fang. And not really the Snake Fang, it's actually a proper name, just Snake Fang. You'll see in the dialogue upcoming as we enter the Sheep's tutorial. Not that we really need the tutorial, but since we can fly, we can now 100% complete the Sheep's dream, so we might as well take this opportunity to jump in while we're here. So yeah, sure, tell me about it. We'll put up with it for a second, and we'll save me the trouble of having to sort of contrive a scenario to use it myself. Not that we won't have a few opportunities while we're moving around anyway. This is a pretty simple one, too. This is the first time we've actually had a tutorial here in the little ocean section as opposed to the place where the cannon used to be in the first one. So yeah, Snake Fang. He doesn't even use the. It's basically the hook shot, except you can't use it to pull yourself places if you're familiar with it from Zelda. So the goal here is, as he is the master and we're the student, we snatch the orange from his swimming pool. Note that you can try to lock onto anything and hook onto it. We tried to hook onto him, but it didn't work. It didn't do anything funny. I was kind of hoping we would, like, drag the sheep around for a while, but I guess I was wrong. Anyway, that's all. Now we can explore the level at our leisure. So what we need to do is get up to the top of the mountain, where we can see an island that we can fly to, although the camera screws it up by making us spin around like crazy just when we launch into the air. It does take quite a while to get here, and notice this is what I was talking about before. When you try to sort of navigate the camera, it always stays locked directly behind you, so as soon as you try to sort of fine-tune your motion, it sort of flops up and down, which makes dashing really difficult at certain points. Pick up these rings. Supposedly, I guess this trajectory of rings is intended to lead us to this little island, but it's not like we can't see it without the help, you know? Oops, wrong thing. Let's butt slam down on the ground. Like a lot of optional areas, this place has a pretty high concentration of collectibles. It's a piece of dream energy and the gold Espon. Show off the Snake Fang a little bit. It does do a small amount of damage, less than the Arbalest or the draw card. I'm trying to hit this guy with the sword while he's down here, but as it turns out, any enemy that you'd actually need the Snake Fang to get close to you can recover faster than you can actually hit them with a weapon, making it completely useless. There's another Black Essamon. I will, again, let Bumble eat it. It actually beats out the one he was balancing on his nose, and it just jumps right down his throat. Still waiting for that one apparently extremely rare event that happens if you let him eat enough Black Essamons. I think this is like the 10th or so that I've seen in all the times that I've been playing so far, and I've yet to actually get what I want. Anyway, back up in the air. Part of what I like about this game is the fact that the density of collectibles in areas that you might think to go is always at least one. No matter what you attempt to do, no matter what direction you go in, you're either completing the main plot or heading towards a collectible. There's not a lot of actual filler in the level. There's the dream energy that we saw from the top of the mountain way back when, and there should be a gold Essamon right here. So once we have that, the only thing left to do is pick up the last 2 rings, and we'll just sort of lazily float down on them. I'm not really sure how you're supposed to see these. The other 2 on the mountainside you can see while you're looking at the gold Essamon that you had to get by falling down the side. These 2 I have only ever seen, since you don't have a first-person view in this game, by flying. We'll pick them up and go sliding down as soon as we make contact, which I think is pretty funny, but largely irrelevant. Anyway, let's get out of here. That's all we have to do here. The Sheep's dream is now 100% complete. That's our 3rd 100% complete dream after Phoebe and Parfait. And next, we have to leave the temple. So I have enough out of you. We will not be re-entering the Dream Enter's Dream. I will just be showing you the last 2 holy instruments during normal gameplay, but we do have to actually exit the temple manually as opposed to using a wipe, because there is a cutscene right here. Let's screw up the cutscene script by getting onto Bumble and then making him get off for the purpose of the cutscene. Again, the purpose of this cutscene is rather odd, because we've been getting a few sort of subtle ones describing how Snoppy is becoming more of a philanthropist and doing things more to help other people, not so much just for himself. But now all of a sudden the game sort of abandons the subtle approach and just has him complain about how empty he is inside all the time. He's like Tomo, where all of a sudden he just comes down with a case of emo. Jeez. Anyway, enough out of that. Bumble's dancing, just sort of punctuates the whole situation. Because I mean, look what happened to Bumble in the last cutscene. He almost died. He still has a threat hanging over his head, and yet he still finds time to dance. Anyway, more backtracking. Back to Yuri's dream. We're in the opening room very briefly, because our actual destination is the temple area. There is a flight pad here. We didn't actually get very many opportunities to look at it or complain about it, because as it turns out, we need the Snake Fang to get to it, and it's the only instance of an obstacle that requires Snake Fang in any level we've been to so far. Of course, there'll be plenty to solve in levels coming up, but here we need it just to access this little platform containing the flight pad. Let's ignore this freaking jelly drop because I don't care about him anymore, and we are off. Thank you for flying, Baku Air. If you look to your left, you can see a tummy-up fragment and a gold Essamon, and a beautiful temple that houses a horrible lizard man. I will remind you that on this flight, portable electronic devices are prohibited because in this universe I don't believe they have been invented yet. Our trajectory here is these 3 rings. It's pretty simple, all things considered. There's no real challenge in flying through them. You don't have to dash or anything, although I really should be dashing at this point. I guess I get a little stingy with my tummy points because I'm so used to using them to sort of bypass the fact that I'm really bad at not accidentally taking damage in pretty much every combat situation ever, but whatever. That's 2 right there, and considering we need to use so many Essamons just to stay afloat, I like to sort of hedge my bets. And that's 3. The prize, thankfully, appears somewhere fairly logically, about in the center of the 3 rings, and at about the same altitude you'd be at when you finish flying through the 3rd one, so we can pick it up pretty easily. Now we're going to soar and explore the top of the temple. Again, this is what I was talking about before, where just about any place you could explore has something for you to find once you get there. Some of it is a little stilted and repetitive. I mean, we've solved those like butt-pound block puzzles, or switch puzzles rather, 5-6 times by now. And it does get a little old, but at least you're doing something. You're never going to wander off somewhere and feel like you completely wasted your time, as long as you are invested in the general objective of the game, finding all the collectibles and unlocking the things you get for getting dream rings and Essamons or whatever. There's a golden Essamon up here, so of course it's pretty high on the collectible tier. You can see a tummy-up fragment out there off in that chasm, so we're gonna have to fly out there a little bit. We are also, spoiler alert, going to find out why I was hurling myself off the side of all the platforms in the previous run through Yuri's ring. There we go, one last ring. I believe that's 100 rings for this level, so all we need to do is pick up this last tummy-up fragment and one other extremely obnoxiously placed collectible, and we will have our 4th 100% complete dream. Back to the flight pad, and we are off. I have to admit, it's very relaxing in a platform-based game to be able to sort of fly and soar over all the obstacles you previously had to sort of bypass manually. I guess maybe that's why I left so much of this unedited and unsped up. It's, I don't know, it's peaceful to me. Music is nice. There we go, let's pick this up, and I don't believe this is giving us a full tummy point yet. I think that's the next one. So anyway, on to the last collectible of this area. As it turns out, there is a gold Essamon on a platform all the way down at the bottom near the sort of boundary of the level where you would normally fall off and lose a life and be respawned. And there's no clue as to where it is. The only thing you can do is either hurl yourself off over and over again until you happen to spot it, or do what I'm doing now, which is wander around while you can fly, very slowly drifting downwards until you happen to see it. And it takes a really long time to get down to the actual location where you can draw in the platform or the collectible itself. The ideal place to drop off is right where we picked up the second piece of Dream Energy, where we have those X and O platforms. There it is. As you can see, it doesn't draw off until you're like right up against it. But now we have it. We never have to worry about that again. And it makes episode 5 or wherever I was jumping off the side make a lot more sense. Let's get out of here and return to the beach, where we can trigger another dream change. Much like with Florence's dream, where we triggered a dream change by talking to her about Hannah's crayons, we can now talk to Santa Claus, and he's talking about fruitcake, which apparently is a trigger point. That's a lie. It's not interesting at all. But we're going to check it out anyway. And much like Florence's dream, it is, assuming you remember the layout of the level, incredibly obvious what changed once you actually get inside. See that giant thing sticking out of the river that used to be empty? That's apparently a fruitcake candle. It's somewhat topical from a Christmas standpoint. Let's go up there and check it out. We do have a second objective, which I believe is the first thing we want to try to do here. Remember that after we completed the second Santa race, he told us that we could do a third race if we lit up the Christmas tree. And as it turns out, I am lucky enough to still have a lightning draw card, from the fight against Casey in Lillian's dream, so we can take care of the first part of this now. Could have done this during my last trip to Santa's dream, but there was no reason to do so because you can't actually complete this part of the objective until you can fly. In fact, you need that and the fruitcake candle in order to finish triggering the third race. So we have these 3 spotlights, and if you strike them all with the lightning draw card, it will light up a tree and cause a star to appear, which we need for later. Not for the race, but we still have to spawn that for 100% completion purposes anyway. Second thing to do is check out this candle. There's no way to enter or get on top of it now because there are no flight pads in the level yet. But you can enter the bottom and swim up through it to get to the top. So let's take care of that. Actually, there's more water in here than I believe there is on the outside. The sea level here, I guess, doesn't really obey the laws of pressure. As you can see, once we actually swim all the way up it, we're way up on top. There's a balloon over there. I will try to remind myself to pick that up later, but I believe I bypassed it a couple of times before I actually pop it. This is what we need to spawn flight pads. 1 on the candle, 1 by Santa that we use for the race, and 1 by the Christmas tree. We will be using all of these. We have to get up on top of this candle to light it, because as it turns out it is unlit, but we can't do that from here. So let's look out and sort of orient ourselves. I'm trying to light it from here, but apparently it's not possible. You know, I have no compunctions about flinging myself off of just about anything in this game. Pick up these rings just for completion, because I know there are people watching the show who are very aggravated when I leave them behind. In fact, I am as well. Oops, almost forgot. I know I said I wouldn't forget, but I very nearly forgot to pop that balloon. So let's take care of that. I kind of hope I was kind of wishing here I could lock onto it and use the draw card, but apparently I can't. I have to use the Arbalest. Just trying to save myself the trouble of using the status screen. Lock on and pop. It's a piece of dream energy falling off into the void. We will pick that up later. Onto the flight pad and up towards the candle. There is a small ledge on the top of the candle by the wick that we can land on. This is pretty peaceful, like just about everything in Santa's dream. Just sort of wander around and poke at whatever catches our fancy. You don't need to throw the draw card at the wick. You can actually hit it with anything fire themed, meaning I can use the spin attack from the spear, which is one of my favorite things to do. You can see it from the distance. I don't know why they're showing us this pan out, but it does spawn a piece of dream energy, the highest possible point in the level. We can't jump from the wick, despite the fact that I tried to do it just there. We actually have to go all the way back down to the flight pad and Baku up here the hard way. Woo! Woo! Sigh. Man, he is so excited. Got those... I don't know, he's farting something out of his butt when he does that. It's really weird. Anyway, let's go back down to the bottom where we can pick up that piece of dream energy that fell out of the balloon just to show that it didn't fall anywhere too weird or out of the way. And lastly, let's go check out the flight pad next to the Christmas tree. Here we go. Because we did make that star show up, and obviously since the game called our attention to it, there must be something we can do here. There's also 5 rings we can pick up, so I'm going to very quietly, leisurely glide through them. Of course, I missed that first one already. This is relevant because picking up these 5 rings does push us over 800 for the first time, which is a signal that we're approaching 100% completion for every level we've been in so far. This is, Lillian's dream rather, was the 9th overall dream that we've been in. There are 15 in total, at least large-scale levels, including the optional dreams like Phoebe's and Parfai's. Each of them has 100 rings in it. And again, although I said there were 9, there's Val's dream, which we very barely scratched the surface of. So basically only 8 dreams we actually got to explore, and we have crossed 800 rings, meaning we are very nearly done with all the ones we've been in so far. Bash into the star, and that gives us a piece of dream energy. Simple enough. I don't know how intuitive that is, but it doesn't matter because I'm using Guide. Anyway, now that we're done with that, it's time for the ultimate showdown. The last race against Santa Claus. And let's move on over there. Again, this is one of the best places to grind for weapon experience. I'm going to fight absolutely everything, and I'm trying to stab every tree to make Black Essamon spawn in addition to filling up Bumble's tummy, because we're really going to need it. For the last race, we are going to have to dash continuously, which means we need a full tummy. Just getting to the end of the race, since you can't chain dashes together in flight mode like you can on the ground, means that a single race will take more than half your tummy. Plus, I also like to kick Bumble, so I want to make a Black Essamon spawn. I'm such a jerk. Anyway, here we are. After I finish poking all these trees. Any minute now. I have to admit, it's part of my Zelda impulse to just slash everything. Here we are, Santa. We will take out the last race on the next episode of Let's Play Dual Hearts. See you tomorrow.